peace and harmony. We long for the Israel of our dreams. Israel, the reality we have learned to live with. Throughout the generations, along with the great effort to survive an often hostile environment, the Jewish people have struggled with each other and with their philosophical identity. Distrust has bred animosity, and different approaches to our rich and diverse heritage have led to division, anger, and bitter conflict.
Getting worse and worse, the differences, the polarization, and a lack of mutual recognition.
The problem is that there is still a big gap between religious and not religious people in Israel.
But this was impossible. It was an environment we as Americans just couldn't understand.
We no longer agree on who belongs to our people, on who belongs to the land, nor on the basic ideals necessary to guarantee Jewish continuity. Can the pattern be broken? 25 years ago, the idea of Gesher was born in New York because Dr. Daniel Tropper and his friends refused to accept the Israeli reality.
A group of us were in Israel, and while we were overwhelmed by the country, we were shocked by the division between the secular and the religious. And we saw a tremendous need for the future of the country to bring the two together, so the two could become more tolerant of one another, more understanding, and so that really Israel could become a more vibrant society.
In 1970, Gesher inaugurated the first encounter seminars in Israel between religious and secular youth. Young people from vastly different backgrounds were finally able to meet in an intellectually stimulating setting. It was a time for introspection and an opportunity for them to learn how to relate to one another and to their own Jewish identity.
I must confess, I walked into the first Gesher seminar in 1970 with trepidation. We had no idea what would happen. Informal education in the seminar form was unheard of in Israel. We were the first one. Number two, bringing religious and secular youth together. This was unheard of on the Israeli scene. Everyone I spoke to told me it couldn't be done. That's what convinced me it could be done. In the first seminars, I can't say that conditions were ideal. The youngsters were in the old Jordanian, what they were called Nisanim. These were rounded tin buildings, about 40 beds lined up one after another. There were no bathrooms, of course, inside. It was all outhouses. But this created a kind of spirit that I think was critical in these early seminars.
Hava Pinhas Cohen participated in those early seminars. Hava was raised in Tel Aviv in a secular home, school, and youth group that instilled in her a strong love for Hebrew culture and for the land of Israel. It's a love she now tries to pass on to her children. Hava is a poet and the editor of a literary magazine.
And Abraham rose in the morning. He knew not that it was the hills of Jerusalem he walked, the sun still close to the mountains of Moab, the rocky land colored red and gold, and a first cold wind among the winds of autumn touches my bones and tightens my skin.
I came to Gesher seminar because I was curious. Some of my friends went to the first seminar and came with a kind of experience that I didn't understand what's really is going on with them. I wanted to know what really happened there and who are these people that they met over there. So I went. I was very suspicious and with some antagonistic feeling, and I really didn't know what I'm going to meet, to see, but I felt something new is coming on. From there on, something was changed in my life. That's a fact. Today I have no question about my identity. I mean, I define myself as a Jewish woman, but the part of being Jewish is so basic that there is no question about it.
Danny Tropper, with the constant support of his wife Fagi, has been the dreamer and catalyst behind all Gesher's activities. What inspired him was his intense concern for both this generation and the next. While making this video, Hava and Danny met in the hills of Jerusalem for the first time in years. Naturally, they sat and talked about how to solve today's problems, about old times, and about old friends. One of those old and dear friends is Rabbi Yaakov Greenglick, a favorite group leader who came to Gesher while deeply engrossed in his Hesder yeshiva studies and after serving in the IDF Tank Corps. Yaakov, a Rebbe in the Technological Yeshiva High School of Meron, is teaching his class today among the archaeological ruins of an ancient synagogue built in the 1st century of the Common Era, when controversy over Christianity was tearing apart the Jewish community in the Holy Land.
The philosophy of Gesher is not necessarily to change the way of life for the people who come into contact with Gesher. Rather, it's for the people from different backgrounds to get acquainted. Both religious and non-religious Jews are looking for a common ground based on Jewish values.
In 1975, Gesher took a bold new step. Danny Tropper sent Yaakov and others north to the mystical but neglected Galilee town of Tzfat. A legendary hotel overlooking the city was purchased and became Beit Gesher.
My wife and I came to Meron as a continuation of our Aliyah to Tzfat 20 years ago. We came as a group, not only to work at Beit Gesher, but as a group that had come to live in Tzfat, to contribute to the life in Tzfat and to the community itself.
Yaakov and his wife Ofra made this a permanent move. Today they raise their 10 children in Meron and contribute to the intellectual life of the surrounding communities. Yaakov, Hava, and thousands of others like them were deeply moved by Gesher. But not everyone can attend seminars, and Danny Tropper wanted to reach large numbers of students in the Israeli public school system, a system where the status and time afforded Jewish studies were rapidly deteriorating. This was accomplished through the David Schoen Institute, with the creation of unique study units, computer software, a best-selling series of history books, and award-winning trigger films.
Of all the films we've produced, the one that's closest to my heart is Lights. Because Lights has reached millions of viewers. There's something warm, there's something, I would say almost eternal about the story of Jewish survival that's presented in a way that a 5-year-old child can appreciate it and an adult can appreciate it.
Gesher has provided forums for Israelis with special needs and interests by designing innovative Jewish identity programs for new olim and newlyweds and holding symposia with teachers, writers, artists, and philosophers. Gesher has encouraged people to begin to speak with, not at, one another. Danny Tropper has also tried to influence the leadership in society and has introduced Israeli presidents and prime ministers to Gesher's goals. A dream come true was realized in the summer of 1993 when Gesher finally established a permanent home in the heart of Jerusalem, the Gesher Educational Center, Milken Family Campus. This magnificent edifice, built on a historic site, embracing the old and the new, both architecturally and philosophically, enabled Danny and his staff to continue to open new channels of communication. Gesher is now producing a video series on great Jewish personalities and a multimedia system for the teaching of Bible. And Gesher continues to bring Israelis and Jews everywhere closer together on the basis of a shared and precious tradition. A major effort is still crucial to our goal, an era of tolerance and acceptance, when all Israelis will recognize that in the grand scheme, each one has a role to play. Gesher has created the framework. We look forward to the day when our dream will become Israel's reality. 25 years is just the beginning. The vision is still before us.
It's 25 years since Gesher began, and when I look back at this period, I personally feel a deep sense of accomplishment and achievement. I think that we've had a real impact in the lives of tens of thousands of young men and women, in terms of how they look at one another, even though they're very different kinds of Jews, in terms of their thinking of how to build a home Jewishly, in terms of the education they want to give their children. I think we've made a difference. But I don't believe that this is a time to rest on our laurels. We have to look ahead. And the next 25 years of Israel's history, in my opinion, promises to present us with far greater challenges. But I think that we are in a unique position to respond to these challenges because of the expertise we've developed, the experience, the programs, and the talents we've identified. I think the next 25 years are going to be even more exciting. We have a lot to be proud of, but I know one thing. All of this could not have happened were it not for the assistance and the help which we've received from our friends and supporters. And I and all of us here in Israel are deeply appreciative of this.